So does everyone have a copy of the resolution dated April 14th? Lindsay had prepared and it's been distributed a little earlier today.
Yes.
Having to do with non-in-person public meetings and such.
Yes.
Okay, if so, I would like us to start off with a motion and a second to approve.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you. Okay, first item, we have a public hearing, which is local law limitation of certain building construction materials, which is postponed. We'll continue to postpone this. I think the month of May would be premature at this point. In all likelihood, we will conduct that hopefully in the month of June. And as we get closer to that, we'll have a better idea and to allow sufficient lead time for publication and authorization. So we'll keep this on the agenda for the May meeting, but it's my sincere hope that we can address that on the June Village Board meeting. Item number 2 is a public hearing to review and approve the proposed budget for the fiscal year 2020/2021. I'd look for a motion and a second to go into to leave the regular meeting and go into a public hearing.
I make the motion to go in.
I'll second. It's Michael.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, I think we're all familiar with this. After reworking this, the tax rate will remain constant as it has for the last 2 fiscal years at $22.45. The tax rate per $100 evaluation. The budget is balanced and it represents a 0% tax increase. Pat, you're managing the email content from anyone doing in the public. Are there, I'll turn to the public if there are any questions or comments, please.
No emails.
Thank you. Any comments among colleagues of the village trustees? Does anyone have anything further that they'd wish to add?
No, I think we've covered it in the past.
I agree. Okay, I'll look for a motion and a second to close the public hearing and re-enter the regularly scheduled meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Kurt. In a second.
Maureen, I second.
Maureen, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Okay, so addressing the proposed budget then, as presented, reflecting a 0% tax increase, a tax rate of $22.45 per $100 evaluation, and the budget is balanced for the upcoming fiscal year beginning June 1st. May I have a motion and a second to approve this budget as presented at this time?
I move to approve. Jim?
I second, Michael.
Michael, second. All in favor, please?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all. Okay, number 3, I'm sorry, item number 3, and thank you all for all your work on this. Pat, thank you for a great job as always. We have the review and approval of the minutes from the regular board meeting of March 17th, 2019. These have been circulated. I read them at that time. I've read them again today. Are there any questions or any comments or corrections to be made?
I'll move to approve the minutes. Jim?
Who's got a second on that?
I'll second it, Kurt.
Thank you, Kurt. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Thank you, Jim. Okay, Pat, item number 4, which is the treasurer's report.
Okay. Bank balances as of March 31st, general fund, $1,331,933.19. There's a cash flow statement on page 4. Those are projected balance to be $942.87. At this point in time, we've collected 99% of last year's taxes. There's a summary of the planning board receivable, trust and agency account. The balance sheet and revenue expenses are included on pages 10 through 23. Any questions?
I've noted that both the police department and the fire department are under budget. We have a month, and then any deferred charges. I think they're going along well, and I think, as you have indicated on your forecast, that we'll come into a surplus on operations for the year ending May 31st. And our reserves are very good and healthy, it looks like. Okay, and you have a few resolutions, I know, within your.
Yes. First one, resolution to accept the budget modifications. They're included on page 29.
Let me just get to that.
I'm sorry, page 27.
Okay. '27 looks like the bond anticipation notes budget.
28, sorry,
Okay,
29. Oh, no.
no, it's, let's see what we have here. I'm not finding it.
No, I'm not. I will, I'll pull it up and I'll send it.
Yeah, we can get back to that. We
Yeah.
have another one, I think, for TNA, and we also have, well, we'll deal with this one for Bonnie Picarillo with the abstract, of course, but you have another bullet point on the treasurer's report.
Right, to transfer $602.75 from the Bluff Trust and Agency account to the general fund.
We have a motion to that effect in a second, please.
I'll make
I'll
the
make that-
motion. Michael?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Michael and Kurt. All in favor, please?
Aye.
Great. Okay, and then we turn to item number 5, which is the review and approval of the abstract. There were additional ones, I think, that were circulated today, if I'm not mistaken. And let's see, I think the monthly one that was submitted, I think came in at $59,000 or $60,000 in total, and there have been several additional ones, I believe. Has everyone had a chance to look at those that were circulated today?
Yes,
Okay, let's entertain a motion and a second resolution to approve for payment the abstract as presented, including the one that was circulated earlier
I'll
today.
make the motion, Jim.
Thank
I'll
you.
second it, Kurt.
Thank you, Kurt. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you all. We have some additional bills, I think. Pat, you want to go through those?
Okay, there's another abstract 2303. 2304, rather.
They approved that one with.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, there is a resolution to payment of $999 to Powers IoT for additional cameras, cable runs, and hard drive for the camera system.
What is the location of that 643 Mauritius Road?
Fire department.
That's FD.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking it was. Okay. Do we have any questions on this request? Michael, as fire commissioner, why don't you lead us off on this?
If I'm not mistaken, it was for additional camera and some additional equipment. That's all I have, update.
No, I meant for as far as a motion. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, I'll make the motion to pay the bill, please.
Okay, do we have a second, please?
I'll second it.
Great, thank you, Kurt. All in favor, please, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. I think we had one for the court reporter also, Pat.
Court reporter and TD card services. Court reporter Bonnie Picarillo, $253.25 for the ZBA meeting on March 16th. and TD Card Services 28716 for wood for the EMS rooms shelving.
All right, for those two items, may I have motion a second, please?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second, Jim.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Aye.
thank you. Okay, Lindsay, we turn next to you, item number 6 for the attorney's report.
Okay, so Jean had circulated the litigation report last Thursday. There wasn't updates on that really. I have some legal advice to give to you regarding the renewal of the Verizon franchise agreement. We had sent a memo about that, I guess early this week. And I could discuss that in executive session. And then there was one item on the immediate action list that was a carryover. And just to confirm that the Nissequogue we double checked and we believe that the Nissequogue Fire Department notices meetings are subject to the open meetings law. So they should be noticed just like board meetings.
Okay. The issue with the Article 78, we are going to fast be approaching the 2-year anniversary of what we all believed was a rather straightforward rudimentary proceeding. Has the judge lost the paperwork? What is God's name is taking so long?
I don't know. And under the current circumstances, I can imagine that it's not happening anytime soon.
I know, Gene, or maybe you had opined at some point over a year ago, it's probably not a good idea to reach out to the judge, and I would agree now is not the best time, but we have to have a decision on this. This has been dragging on for an excessive long time. Not only the village, but the Zoning Board of Appeals, Michael Fazio, Joe Arrico as individuals. This, we've got to put this to bed. Could you please speak to Scott Carson? I believe he's been representing the village on this, and get his advice on when we get back to somewhat a normal state of affairs, whatever that will look like, to try to get the judge to move on this. This is preposterous, really, for something, I don't mean to make it insignificant, but this is not a Supreme Court ruling, for God's sake.
Oh, I agree.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Lindsay, please? Okay, Lindsay, thank you as always. Pat, I'll turn next again to you for the village clerk's report, please.
Okay, we have a very tentative calendar on the first page of tab 7. We're not sure what's going to happen in May. Dates on there in case things get better and we can hold these meetings. We did include a work session for Tuesday, April 28th, in case we need to do the election resolutions once we find out what's going on. So just if everyone could keep that date open, if it's possible.
That would be 7 o'clock in the evening, 2 weeks.
From today.
That's correct.
Okay.
We need a resolution.
Yeah, also included in here, everyone got a copy of it, but the municipal workforce webinar that Lamar Bernowski is hosting tomorrow, if anyone's interested, it's 11 to 12:15 tomorrow. And Scova.
We're all SCOVA members, so you can register and participate in this.
I've also included last month's immediate action list. Okay, then after that is the tax warrant. I need a resolution to post and publish the tax warrant.
Can you explain to everyone on the board, Pat, what the tax warrant consists of and why this is significant?
It just gives me the authorization to collect the taxes, gives the details on when the village hall is open and the total amount of the tax levy.
Right, thank you. Okay, we'll look for a motion and a second to approve the tax warrant for the Village of Nissequogue for the upcoming fiscal year, please.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second Jim.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Kurt. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
And that concludes my report.
All right. I'm going to jump on that last bullet point, which is village elections, Pat.
Okay,
Yeah, so all the villages who are slated to hold elections in June, we are very much in limbo at this point. I've reached out to SCOBA Council. I've spoken to the officials up in Albany with NICOM. There has been no clear decision made on what's going to happen for the elections, which typically are I think they're the third Tuesday. Third Tuesday of the month in June. There's several hundred villages throughout New York State who are affected by this. And there's more to it because to have an election, you need to have a ballot, and to be on the ballot, you need to circulate petitions and such, all of which have been sidelined officially by various executive orders from the governor's office at this time. So we're a little bit state of limbo right now on when the village election is going to take place. I know those villages which were slated for a March election, and I think that's about half of the several hundred villages in the state. They have a tentative date. I think it's the 26th of June or thereabouts. So it's about 3 months after they were scheduled. So conceivably, if we use the same relationship, it would be perhaps in September, but it's something that I'm concerned with. We have work to do. We have to put a petition out. We have to circulate it. We need a certain minimum of numbers, and we have to appoint poll watchers and election officials and such, all of which we're in abeyance right now. There's really no clear direction on what we're going to do. So obviously, as we find out, Lindsay and Pat, and myself and others will share it with everyone, but it's a little bit of a black hole right now. So those of you who would be running for election or re-election this June, just sit tight, and there's nothing that you can be doing now. We cannot carry petitions. All of that is prohibited at this time. So my sense is that it will happen several months after the initially scheduled time frame, God willing. Okay. We go to item number 8, the fire department renovation project. So I had circulated to each of the trustees copies of 2 estimates for work to be done on the south side of the firehouse to stabilize and grade and retain that hillside, which is in bad shape. I think everyone's gone down and taken a look at it. We need to do something. We cannot ignore this. These 2 estimates, I think one was for $23,500, one was for $25,000. I circulated them not in anticipation that we're going to make any final decision. Certainly, we're not tonight, nor do I think perhaps either of those companies would be the final one. I think we need to reach out to a few other firms to come down and provide not only an estimate, but as Kurt had suggested in his initial email this morning, we want a rendering, a schematic. What's it going to look like? How are you going to do it? Will it be 1 wall? Will it be 2 walls and such? But the point of bringing this up right now is just to alert everyone. We have spent, I believe, to date, approximately $676,000 on, $576,000 on this project. And I really don't want to spend a penny more. But more importantly than that and I think you all would all agree with me, I'm sorry, I'm getting interrupted with a call here. Hello, all. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
I'm sorry. For some reason, I got a call from a fellow Rotarian that knocked me out of this somehow. I didn't answer it, but I don't know where I got knocked off, but we were talking about the need to do something to stabilize that hillside on the south side of the firehouse. And although I wish we wouldn't be spending another cent, more importantly, we need to fix that problem. That is going to be a huge problem in the future, not only impacting the village property, but perhaps damaging the neighbor's property immediately behind it as their fence line and their property gets undermined. So I'm thinking that we should reach out to RJK as one example to come in, work up an estimate, give us a drawing. Does anyone have other suggestions?
I was thinking perhaps and this is probably more than we want to spend, but you know, the Hamilton crowd, the guys who are coming in and looking at the bluffs, they might be overkill, but they are involved in drainage and erosion.
Okay, I've taken that down. I like that. Thank you. That's Chuck Hamilton, I believe. Right.
Who's sick, by the way. He's got the virus, I think.
Oh, boy.
But I don't know how bad he is, and I think that's week old news. So we'll see.
Okay. So we'll reach out to him. I'll reach out to Richie Curry, who still works for RJK. They do this type of work also. I don't envision that any work is going to be done at least for a month or two at the earliest, but we need to address this. The reason I bring this up this evening is just to alert everyone on the board that we're going to have to spend some additional serious money to fix that problem there. I don't like the way it was left, but more importantly, I can see how over the next year or two, we would have a serious problem, not only impacting the village's property, but conceivably one or two neighbors, and we can't allow that to happen. So that's pretty much on that. The laundry room, the electric has been connected, the plumbing has been connected. It's a good thing in that, particularly in this very trying time, the cleaning room, the laundry room is activated, is operational. So that is a huge benefit. A weekend and 2 weekends ago, our 3 part-time laborers spent a day putting in the concrete blocks with plastic water shield and sealed it and did a nice job, I thought, on the north end of the firehouse there. Michael, do you have anything that
Yeah,
you
I have a couple updates.
go?
What they did with the Mafia block worked. The only problem is now we have everything going into that one drain, and that drain under the slab failed, and it flooded the area out again. So that drain's going to have to be figured out or opened up, but that's a minor solution. The other thing was, because of the delay on the wall on the south side, the generator still isn't hooked up. So with the storm, the fire department had to go down and open the doors up in that rain. They did respond to it looks like 8 official calls on the call mall. They did go to other calls on that way, so they were kind of trolling for the whole day. So they did a great job. They kept the roads clear as well as they could. I know
Yep.
some of us had power outages, but that was a minimal amount from what I gather. Otherwise, everybody is just trying to keep their precautions. We have our protocols in place. Everybody's following them drastically. As you know, last week we went on a mutual aid to Stony Brook Hospital. They had a fire on the 10th floor in the Health Science Building, which is right behind the hospital. And our crews were admirable. They actually entered the Health Science Center. The floor was contained where the fire was, and they were not exposed to anything from the hospital side at all. So I have to give them kudos. I was with them, and everybody did a wonderful job. So they're
They certainly have. Let's
picking it
just
up.
go back to the generator. I'm a little confused. I was of the belief, and speaking to Dominic and others, I thought the generator not only was installed, but had been hooked up now.
The generator is installed, the electric is installed to it, but it needs a gas line. It runs off propane. And the gas line has to be moved in from the boiler room across, and that wasn't done because we're supposed to move the generator again when that wall is built again. They want the generator out, so the gas
I
line was held up as a precaution.
Yeah, for any of the machinery that would be necessary to do any earth moving and grading and such, unfortunately, that generator is in a tough spot and would have to be temporarily relocated. I got it.
It's an access point. That's to get up onto the hill. But otherwise, the Mafia block did do well. And as far as a bid on the other side, I would love to see, like you said, a schematic or a print of what they're going to do, and just with the details so we can approve it and go through it. I mean, it is extremely frustrating. I mean, I know when the architect started this, we did go with the swales, the grades, and apparently there was some miscalculations because it's just the water coming off the field above is just tremendous. It's
That's correct.
I'll
So-
leave it at that.
I will be reaching out to Chuck Hamilton. I'll speak to RJK. If anyone has any other contractor that they'd like to suggest, please just email me or text me. We wouldn't hurt ourselves by getting multiple estimates and ideas on how to fix this solution now.
Did anybody happen to go down and see it while the heavy rain was going on the other day?
Mr. Kurt Meyer,
Yeah,
Yes, I went right after the rain
right.
in the afternoon. And although some sand and stuff came down, it didn't look drastically different. However, it's really not in a condition that we would want to keep it, that's for sure. It definitely needs to be upgraded, and something has to be done to have a permanent fix on it.
What do you think, Kurt? Do you have any insights or any concepts?
No, I'm kind of surprised that it turned out the way it turned out, and the boulders that we put in there, it's I think was silly, but I'll sketch something up what I think it should look, what I would like it to look like, but that doesn't mean we have to go with that, but it gives us an idea at least. It'll probably have to be a 2-tier system because the wall would
that's
just
right. I
You know?
think I'm discussing this with Tommy Heister, who's one of the 3 part-time highway fellows for us and full-time with the Parks Department. He had the same exact suggestion that it really needs to be a 2-tier, retaining wall approach.
Yeah, I mean, a single one, you have to make it like 10 feet high.
Right.
And we don't even allow that for homeowners or something. So, and it's just not safe when you have a 10-foot high wall,
I hear you. I agree. Good, thank you. Any other comments on number 8? Otherwise, we'll get into.
And we're holding back $2,500 on the. from the
Yeah, that's the,
Yes.
and Pat researched that, and that is the extent of what we are holding in retainage. I've asked Pat and Joe until further notice not to release 1 penny of that.
Without a doubt, we still have a small roof
I
leak.
think there were some things that were sloppily done, in my unprofessional opinion, and I think leaving the job site the way it was with all that massive amount of loose fill off to the side and all was not right.
Yeah, there's still some imperfections that have to be corrected. He knows about it. There's a list that's been submitted to him by Joe Rico.
Yep. Okay. So I will now turn to Mike Fazio for a update on the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Been on mute as directed by Pat. I don't know, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
we hear
Okay.
you and we see you.
Yes.
Okay, I took it off mute. Number one, I really appreciate this session as a practice session for what we have upcoming, possibly. Just not sure how it's going to go over. Secondly, I want to echo your remarks, Richard, Mr. Mayor, on the Article 78. It's really long overdue. It's just unbelievable. As for our board, we have actually 3 cases that are in various stages. We have Garrick on Quail Path, which has been basically suspended until May. It was pretty clear that they were not going to receive what they wanted at the hearing, and under advisement, we postponed it to the following month, and they asked to go another month, and now it seems like it's going to be May before that can happen, if we do in fact have one. Our last hearing was Cortese on Old Mill Road. I think everyone drives past there and is familiar with that property, and they've done a lot of work and they've done a lot of nice things to that property. It's been an eyesore for a long time. However, what they were asking for, in their words, a kitchen, 30 feet from their property line on that south side, which is adjacent to the formerly, or still presently, Coke property. It's really their structure, the residence, actually sits on that 60-foot line from the side. So they have virtually no place to put anything there, and what they were asking for seems to be overly substantial. Nevertheless, there's an upcoming vote on that, so I'm more or less giving you my impressions on where that should go. They've done an awful lot of work there, and it seems like they had a lot of other choices. So we'll see how that's going to go. But I think our next public meeting, a work session, will be a vote on that and a visitation for the next case. And we'll be doing that hopefully in this manner, the Zoom format. Finally, there's the case coming up, which probably likely would be held in May. And that's Rotigliano. They're on Parsons, and they're asking for, seems to be a popular idea now, a pavilion next to their pool. Their pool is on the side of the house currently. They have a very shallow backyard, and they're asking for a pretty substantial variance to put a pavilion on the side of the house, again, about 30 feet from the property line. So it's another similar situation. We haven't heard that case yet, but that's what's coming up next. So any questions? That's what I have.
Well, I have one question, and I just commend you and your entire board. You certainly have bitten off a lot for this next month coming up, Mike. There's quite a bit that you're going to have. What is going to be, what's the current status of the Bluff Road application, where we had talked about the need for a variance on that 70-foot setback from the edge of the bluff?
That has not come to us at all yet.
Okay,
So
they need to make application, obviously.
there's not an application yet. There's not a
I-
denial yet on that.
Good. Any questions for Mike?
No, just like to make a comment that old Coke house finally is cleaned up and for sale, which is terrific. That's been such an eyesore for years. One of the adjacent houses to Mike's
Yes,
case.
it's directly adjacent to this Cortese house on Old Mill Road. And I really thought for sure that a representative of the Koch family would show up at the hearing, given what the request was.
Right.
But that didn't happen.
Yeah. Good.
Good.
Yeah, good. Yes.
Good. Thank you, Mike.
Okay, I think I'm gonna go watch TV.
Okay.
Good idea.
Thank-
Good night, Mike.
Good
night.
night. Thanks a lot.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Michael.
There are two other motions that I'd like to address for consideration. And before we move on, I know we have a grant report and then we'll get into executive session. For safety considerations, I've asked that I be the only one to review an initial off on the, I just think that given the circumstances we find ourselves in, that until further notice, I think I'd prefer that I'd just be the one to initial instead of all of us handling it and initialing it at all. So I'd look for a motion in a second to approve Richard Smith as mayor to be the only trustee needed to review and initial vouchers until further notice.
I'd like to make that motion.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Yep, I just think let's be extra cautious in this time. The last thing that I have to go over for a motion, I have personal thanks, and we all owe thanks to Kristen Donahue, who on her own volition took the effort to beautify the two entranceways to the village, both at River Road and at Mauritius Road, and really showed some not only great initiative, but great sense of design and beautification. And it gave me an idea that I'd like us to have a formal village beautification committee. And I'd like Kristen Donahue to be the head of that. And I would like Maureen Potter, in addition to her other commissioner duties, to provide oversight for the village beautification committee. As you'll remember, this current year, I think we budgeted $10,000. Next year, we've budgeted $10,000 into that. I think this is something that not only affects, but benefits all the village residents as they drive into or out of the village. And I think under Kristen's leadership and Maureen's input, and hopefully we can expand that committee certainly, but I'd like to appoint Kristen to the Village Beautification Committee. So I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that takes care of anything I had to go over. Jim, I'm sorry. Pat, is there anyone else other than Mike Fazio who would the meeting?
Yeah, Russ and Joe Arico are both on.
Oh, okay. Why don't we start off with the fire department then? Chief?
All right. Well, I think everybody got the mileage report as well as the incident run. Also, I noticed on this, there was no call-in phone number. George Gavaris would like to get on, but he does not have a computer he wants to call in. So if somebody could text or email him the phone number to call in on this, that'd be great. So I don't know if there are any questions on the incident run report or on the mileage report, and then I'll go into the things that I have.
I think the only thing that I have to say is a word of great thanks to you, your two chiefs, and all the members of the Nissequogue Fire Department and the ambulance crew in this difficult time. And then what you all had to face yesterday as utility lines and trees were coming down I think at one point the village was landlocked, no passage anywhere, it seemed. But you guys have been very, very busy and just making everyone proud. Thank you very, very much for your leadership and for each and every member of the fire department. This is a very difficult time. Everyone's concerned about their own individual family's well-being and all, and yet volunteer and come out on these calls, facing risk every day. So thank you.
Well, it's a real team effort, that's for sure. It's certainly nothing I've ever seen before, nothing I expected to encounter as chief. So it's been a huge learning experience. Yeah, yesterday was busy, but I'm extremely grateful that PSE&G was there literally within, I don't know, Michael, like half an hour of the first call going out. And they got, once we cut the trees up, after they had turned off the power, we were able to clear the roads in a relatively quick fashion. There's still a lot of power line work left to do. If you drive up and down Marich's Road or up Long Beach Road, you can see the, again, once again, the same spots, lines came down, roads were burned. So there'll be a little bit of repair work on that for sure. But we're supplied. We're ready to meet the need as ever as possible. We have plenty of masks. We have goggles. We have Tyvek suits. We're doing our best not to scare the heck out of a resident when showing up, but those are all the protocols that we have to follow now. The last one that came out was that from Suffolk County is no longer going to be notifying us if a home has tested positive and there's a call that comes in. We are to treat every call as if the residents of the household have been exposed and act accordingly. So that's definitely a different change in the protocol over the past week. But otherwise, we're ready for it. We're doing the very best that we can. Fortunately, knock wood, it's been quiet. We haven't had a lot of calls where we actually had to take somebody to the hospital, which is a good thing. I'm sure you've all read Stony Brook is certainly having its issues. The fire there the other day highlighted that because everybody was very nervous. They didn't know what they were going to do if patients had to be moved. George Gavaris went in with his team and they actually had to do a floor-to-floor search along with 2 other fire departments. They did a great job. Very proud of the work that they did. And other than that, we haven't had much between the wind and the power lines. Just an update, the Fire Department Council voted to extend our annual meeting, if you will, from May until June 2nd. At that time, regardless of whether or not we can actually meet, we're going to hold elections. We're not going to push it off any further than that. If we can meet, great. We'll treat it as our annual meeting with the election of chiefs, company officers, and wardens. If we can't, then I've talked to the election committee, and what they're going to do is just schedule people to come down, one at a time to vote. Somebody will count the votes and then they'll announce the results. Company meetings will be done via Zoom call. We'll set that up for each of the captains of the 3 companies. They can elect their officers and their wardens, and then we'll publish the results that way. And other than that, there's not a lot. I mean, obviously, until we get through this pandemic, it's anybody's guess as to what's going to happen next. So I'll take any questions that people have.
Any questions for Chief Russ, guys?
What's your personal protective equipment stock like? Do you have what you need?
We do right at the moment. We've been very fortunate, obviously, with most people sheltering at home. Whenever a call has gone out from Suffolk County, that masks and suits, et cetera, were available, we took advantage of it. I know we've been able to supply all of the firefighters as well as the EMTs with masks and protective equipment as necessary. All the firefighters are wearing masks on the rigs, going to all calls. Do you have
any recovered viral members who have had the virus and have recovered of the fire department?
No, we don't, fortunately not, again, we do not have anybody in the department that has either tested positive or actually gotten the virus. We do have a couple of members for different reasons who are not answering calls right at the moment. Basically they're sequestering themselves at home, but it hasn't affected our ability to respond to calls.
Any other questions for Chief?
No, Russ, we did speak about the wall on the south side. Richard brought it up and we talked about the drain on the north side, so, and the generator in that application, so we're well aware
Yeah,
of what's going
I
on.
saw that. It's really on the north side of the building. The Mafia block is great. The trouble is now with the
That
dirt
drain,
that's
yeah.
there, it is just mud is still flowing across the parking lot through that one little gap where the Mafia block meets that retaining wall. Hopefully, once they finish that, grade it, and get seed on it, it'll prevent that mud flow from happening again.
Yeah, and I understand the drain backed up the other day also. They have taken a hit.
Yeah, Michael, I'm not sure. It might also be a venting problem. You
That's
know
a
what I'm
very good
saying?
possibility.
If because what I was watching was bubbling, which says to me that water's pushing in, but air is not getting out. So you're getting back pressure on that drain now that you're pumping so much water into it. It can't handle that without a vent somewhere.
Yeah, we
That's
have
not
to
my
locate that.
expertise, but that's what it looks like when I see air bubbling up out of that.
Definitely. No, you're correct with that decision.
Yeah,
We
look at
are,
the septic
Russ,
system.
were you on when I was going over what we plan to do with the south end of the firehouse with the wall and all?
Yeah, I've been on since the
Okay.
beginning.
Good. So
So,
you
yeah, I heard all of
what
that.
we're looking to do. Okay. Good. Any other questions for the chief? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Bill. Joe Arico, if you're on, we'll get your monthly report, please.
How are you? Good? Do you have a copy of it?
Yes,
Okay, so been working with Suffolk County Board of Health with this new IT system, the IR system that they're using. And they're going to leave it up to the individual villages to determine, upon review of a site, what system that we want Suffolk County to implement. So this new system is very expensive. It's usually used in high groundwater areas. And there's going to be another meeting Zoom with them coming up, and I'll have to keep you posted on it. So that's something that we're going to need to discuss corporately about how we want to move forward in the building department, asking for these type of systems. All right.
okay.
So that's going to be interesting. I've been doing inspections periodically, not in homes outside of the houses, mostly the vacant ones at Pine Point. I'm also doing inspections at the one down at Yen's Way. I've been doing those as well. I submitted the building review applications to the state, the second round last week. That's done. And I also went in to look at that inspection, and I pulled the plan for the residents on Triple Oak that you asked me to look at for the bluff wall.
That's Alan Stang's bluff project, yes. What
Right.
did you find?
Well, I'm going to be taking another walk out there, but he didn't finish the project.
That's
As per the plan.
apparent to me.
Right. So
He-
that we have to look
He
at.
had the wall put up.
Mhm.
All the old footings have to be removed. The bluff face has to be planted. There are a number of things that have not been done. And that needs to be formally brought to his attention, Joe.
Okay.
Complete your review of the file and visual inspection, and then send him a citation on that. He's got to get that completed.
Okay, I'll take care of that Saturday. Now, what would you like me to do with Rubman? The town of Smithtown, the Parks Department, we issued the permit for him to go through the cut. And I have his permit ready. And in reading, how do you want to handle it? Do you want me to issue that permit based on the stoppage of the work? Is that something that is necessity to do? What is your thought on that?
I don't know what the issue is. Perhaps you could break down the issue for me. Latest I understood, he had received the New York State DEC permit and the village permit.
Right.
So what is the issue? I don't understand.
Because Governor Como says all construction
Oh,
work has to
You're
stop.
saying, oh, yeah,
Mm.
all right, he's got to wait.
But in small paragraphs, it does say necessity to build any structure, infrastructure that's necessary. We could give him the permit. So I want to know what you thought about that. To
Well,
let him
I'm
start work.
all for that, Joe. I think what are they, 60 feet? They're 60 feet from the edge of the bluff or 50 feet?
50.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I will let you know, I've received two very interesting phone calls from Mrs. Rubman wanting us to close down Long Beach Road and complaining about the loud motorcycles and the constant stream of traffic past their home going down to Long Beach. And I handled her calls and I let her know that you'll be responding to her.
Okay, great.
Gonna close it down? Joe can do it.
Well, we did.
I handled it. But Joe, I
Yes.
think Spence is correct. The Rubmans have been waiting a very long time last year, but of all the homes that are imperiled, if you will, by losing some of their bluffs, I think it's them. I think the proper right thing to do is to have that issued.
Okay, I'll take care of that. I'll call her on Thursday.
Okay.
And let's see. And you and I had talked over a few things, and basically that's really about all I have at this point right now.
Yeah, it's very important. I'll use the Alan Stang property as an example. It's very important that with this very critically sensitive issue of bluff erosion remediation efforts, that if we do an approval and there are conditions that they must be met, and this is a very clear example to my eye of something that's not been between yourself and Dan Falasco. It's very critically important that each and every one of these projects gets that follow through and follow up to ensure compliance.
Okay, well, his permit's still open, so we haven't done any final inspections yet, but I'll send the letter out. And also with Rudman, I attached our new code to his permit,
Good.
the new one that was just passed a couple of
Yes.
months ago. And
Perfect.
so that's really, and basically I've been doing some Zoom meetings with architects. There are several that other properties now being looked at, the one at Artesian Way. So I had a Zoom meeting with myself, Fred Through, and two engineers the other night regarding that property that's going to be sold down there.
You just reminded me of something I wanted to bring up. We had spoken with Mike Fazio a little earlier, as you recall, with BZA, and there has been no application yet from John Savastano or his attorney, Gene DiNicola, to seek a variance for the setback from the bluff. I think the house has got a 70-foot setback at this point. What's the latest with that?
Well, when I had spoken to you that few Saturdays back, I had talked to Gene, and Gene said that they were going to come in and Kaz was going to bring the paperwork in, but maybe with everything going on at this point, they're just holding off, but they are aware that they need to go back.
Okay, good. So it's the ball is in their court. John Gonzalez, I have a question for you, please. John?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
In the event that I lose power, I just got a warning. I think I have 20% power left. Is there if I happen to blank out, is there a phone number that I can call in and converse through the finish of the meeting?
Currently, no. That'd be something we'd have to set up for the next meeting.
Plug your phone in.
Don't talk so much. We'll get through this.
I'm done.
All right, good. Any questions for Joe from the building department report?
Nope.
Good, thank you, Joe.
Guys, thank you. Have a good week. Take care.
Good night, Joe.
Good night,
Good
guys.
night, Joseph.
Jim, in the absence of disaster planning, we can get back. I just don't know how long my power will last. I think it would be good to go into executive session.
Okay,
And I've been thinking about, yes, Pat?
okay. George Gavaris just joined, and just a reminder, we still have to reappoint Richard Riley.
Okay, yes, let's do that right now and then go into executive. Thank you. Uh, Richard Riley is a fireman who made application to join our fire department. I think his prior service, among other places, I think it was Holbrook or Holtsville. I think it was Holbrook Fire Department. Due to a great need in the fire department during these difficult times, the chiefs had asked that we move on this application, which was submitted, I think, a couple days after our March meeting. I'm trying to think, there was myself and 3 other trustees that we spoke about, either email or conversed with and approved it. And I'd like to have a retroactive motion or approval at this point back to the date of March 21st, which I believe was a Saturday, when we, 4 of the 5 trustees agreed to him, Richard Riley, becoming a newest member of the fire department. So we'd look for a motion to approve that retroactive back to March 21st, 2020.
I make the motion. It's Michael.
I'll second Jim.
Thank you. All in favor, please? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all. Thank you, Pat. I'd like to entertain a motion to leave the regular meeting and enter into executive session for the discussion of personnel matters. You know, Pat, in thinking through this, I think I'd prefer to keep John Gonzalez on. We had talked about clearing the room, so to speak, but I think it probably would be beneficial if John could stay on.
I'll make the motion to go into executive session.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all. Good pickup, Ms. Nicky. Okay, so I'll ask for a motion in a second to authorize the village clerk to publish notice of an April 28th work session for the village.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Kurt. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Can you remind me what that's for again?
It's a work session, a village work session.
But,
To put
okay,
a
but it's
post-
not
I'm sorry?
specifically, that was for what?
For the election notices if we need them. And also, I have to apologize, I copied 97 pages, but skipped one page, which is the budget modification. So I'll table those till either the work session or the May meeting.
Is that all right, Pat? You think we have
Yeah.
enough time?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Getting down 10%. Just got another warning. Jim, that gives time for number 10.
Quick,
Report.
Jennifer's back in town, so she's coming. She's had a meeting with Pat relative to the building departments using the grant to do archive work, probably in next calendar year, it sounds like, Pat. Is that right?
Right. Right.
So they're gonna spend the rest of the year, such as it is, to get the records ready to put them in a document conversion and use the grant probably next year. And then, John, you can add to this. You did some work with her on the FEMA public assistance sessions for the coronavirus event.
Correct. We wired her in right from the beginning and are isolating. Pat and Laura identified specific accounts to keep track of any expenditures, whether it be in the fire department, the village itself, or the police department. So we're live time, up to speed, and doing well with that.
And I would, have we had any expenses from the coronavirus at this stage of the game?
Nothing substantial.
Pretty minimal. I think Log Me In was the most expensive of what we spent.
Today, we put a new Wi-Fi unit in the building, and we're going to put that on the list also. But, you know, like Pat said, it's been minimal, but we are keeping track of it. We're keeping it up to speed.
And then I think probably it would be a good idea for either myself or Richard and I or the entire board to just meet with her and just kind of refresh our relationship with her, maybe on a Zoom meeting sometime in the next month or so, just to kind of touch base with her and give her some ideas.
It'd be nice if we could do that in June in person. So Jen has now moved to, is it Miller Place or Setauket?
Setauket.
Yeah, so we can pencil it in. I think it'd be nice if we're open for business in person by.
Okay, well, just keep it in mind.
I think you're right. We should have an annual meeting with her. She's very, very important.
Yeah.
But Pat, is there anyone who has emailed anything to you regarding public comments?
Just looked a few minutes ago. No, no.
Okay. Unless there's anything else, I'm going to look to, I'll first thank everyone for your participation in this meeting. I realize these are difficult times. We are all making the best of it and doing our absolute best to support our fellow residents here. And I want to thank you, each and every one of you, for your efforts on that, including going through this meeting. This is probably I'm not a big fan of Zoom meetings and all. I go through too many of them, but I want to thank you all very, very much. Laura and Pat, thank you. John, thank you. You guys are right here on the front line, taking care of any and all requests and questions from village residents. So thank you. If there's not anything, if there's nothing else, then I would look for a motion to close out, to exit the meeting, to adjourn is the term I'm looking for. And a motion and a second, please.
Motion to adjourn, Jim.
Second, Maureen.
Thank you all. Have a good night, all. Thank you.
Night.
John,
Thank you, you too.
Stay
Stay
well.
safe.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.